After seeing the first screenshots of Supraland before hitting that beautiful purchase button on the PlayStation 4, one might forgive me for initially thinking this game was catered towards children. After all, it does take place in a child's sandbox. However, after spending 30 enjoyable hours not only completing the game, but also getting that elusive platinum trophy, I can assure you there is nothing childish about the puzzles in this game. My name is Graham from Team Thumbs, and this is my Supraland PS4 review. In Supraland, you are a red stick figure toy who has been tasked by the Red Village King and Queen to find out what has happened to the village's water, as it all seems to have vanished. As you start your journey, you discover very early on that a nearby village, the Blue Village, has stolen it all. It is then your job to find out why. Now, this is it. That is the story in a nutshell. It's not really a very compelling story, and there's not really much more to it other than what I've just described. Blue Village steals Red Village's water. Find out why. That is it. And the journey through the game is quite literally just following a little blue guy about. But don't let me put you off the game, because it actually is a good game. It's just not a very good story. I do, however, find it interesting that this is all meant to take place in a child's imagination as he's playing in the sandbox. This is evidenced as you actually see the child while you're progressing through the game. Not to mention that cool little clip that I showed right at the start of the video, which actually shows the child putting the toys down in the sandbox. Much like the LEGO movies, none of the other toys seem to be aware that they are being controlled or manipulated. To them, this is their life. However, there are a few characters that you meet while you're exploring that do reference the child as a god-type figure. There's also references to the toy's religion as well throughout the game, which, to be fair, is a nice touch. They seem to have a Jesus Christ-type figure called Mr. Miracle, and they even depict him on a cross. It's a little on the nose for me, but I mean, if this does come from a child's imagination, it does make sense that he would reference what he knows. Perhaps he's a Christian. Now, what Supraland lacks in story, it makes up for in puzzle solving, unlockables, and exploration. There is also in-game combat, but we'll get to that. Exploration is by far one of the best parts of Supraland. The world is deceptively big. This game may take place in a sandbox, but don't let that deceive you, as this sandbox is freaking huge. Not only is it huge, but the kid who set it up must be the Einstein of internal sandbox design. I mean, it has a football pitch, for Christ's sake. Sorry, Super Bowl pitch. The sandbox is split into some fairly hefty sections, and in order to get to the next section, part of the game, you have to explore and usually find a specific tool upgrade which will allow you to get through to the next part, usually because you now have a new ability that you didn't have before. This could be double jump, triple jump, a gun. There are plenty of tools to unlock. Now, finding these tools or tool upgrades isn't just a matter of stumbling upon them. They're usually hidden behind a wide array of puzzles. As you can probably imagine, the puzzles start off fairly easy, but get harder as you go along. Some of them are actually bloody hard. There's a wide variety of different puzzles, and I really enjoyed them all, especially the ones that involved electricity and creating large circuits. Now, I mentioned that you get different tool upgrades as you progress through the game. Well, these tools can also be upgraded. Some upgrades you will find in chests hidden throughout the world, which I think roughly there's around 100 chests in the game, possibly more. And if you're going for the plat, you better start hunting early, as you have to find every single one. But I'll go into this in more depth in my Before You Plat video. Link is in the description below. You can also buy upgrades in shops you find in various different locations throughout the sandbox. What to use as currency, you ask? Well, coins, of course. You can either find coins throughout the world, sometimes in plain sight and sometimes hidden. You can also gain coins by defeating enemies. Yes, defeating enemies. There are enemies in this game, which brings me to combat. There's a reason I've left combat to so late in the review, and it's because it wasn't very impressive. The first weapon you get is a sword, but there's no real skill when it comes to using it. You seem to just wildly flail it about until the enemy's dead. That's if you manage to actually hit them before they kill you in 1 or 2 hits. These guys take no prisoners. Things do improve somewhat when you get the gun. It's fairly fun to use. The problem is you're constantly having to be on the move when using it. You can't stop for a second, because not only do the enemies hit hard, the ranged enemies seem to be flipping sharpshooters. They never miss. Ever. It's like they have heat-seeking projectiles and they pack a wallop. So get used to running and gunning, because that's the only way to survive in this game. Luckily, enemies aren't everywhere and you can explore for quite a while before encountering any. You can also destroy their spawn points, but you don't get this ability till later in the game. Graphically, there's nothing that particularly stands out with Supraland. Don't get me wrong, I can't fault the graphics. They've done a good job with making everything look very toy-like, but I also can't praise them either. They're still pleasant to look at. I mean, I find most games pleasant to look at, considering I play mostly pixel games, but they just don't really do anything to impress. The design of the world is nice, and I can tell a lot of care went into it, but as I say, the graphics are nice, just not wowing. Same with the soundtrack, nothing particularly impressive there, and I have nothing bad to say about it other than it's just a generic soundtrack. Overall, I did really enjoy Supraland. I'm even contributing to Supraland 2's Kickstarter. I know there was some negatives mentioned, but the positives far outweigh the negatives. No game is perfect after all, and hopefully if and when they release number 2, they can improve upon it. So yes, I would recommend this game to anyone who's considering purchasing it. If I was to give it a score, I'd give it a solid 6 out of 10. Room for improvement, but still a good fun game. My name is Graham from Team Thumbs, and thank you so much for watching.